Hello, 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 all my favorite people. Welcome to the Rebel Girls Podcast. I'm Kylie, and today I have one of my very favorite friends from down in the South, Miss Rachel. But as everybody knows, I don't actually do the introductions up here. So, Rachel, can you tell us where you are, what you do, and your preferred pronouns, please?
Okay, I am Rachael Kuntz. I am from Louisville, Kentucky, and my pronouns are she, her. I am currently a stay at home mom to my boys, but before that, I was a kindergarten teacher for like 14 years.
That's amazing. Well, Rachel, I'm so happy to have you here today because we're celebrating kind of a big thing together and in this episode. But we'll get to that in just a moment, won't we? What we always like to do here, what I like to do here, is always set the stage for people to help individuals understand the development that people have experienced. So, my big first question for everyone is always thinking about the 10-year-old version of you. What three emojis best describe that kid way back when?
Okay, I've given this one a lot of thought. Hopefully, it'll be all right. The first one I picked is sunshine because the sun just makes me happy. Generally, if the sun is out, I am in a super good mood. And also because it reminds me of being outside. And when I was younger, the only place I wanted to be was outside. I wanted to be outside with my friends playing games. I wanted to be catching tadpoles and fish in the creek. I wanted to be climbing trees, anything outside. That was where I was the happiest. So
Very
pick that one. And I also picked a heart because even as a young kid, I feel like I was very compassionate towards other people, towards animals. I always wanted to take care of everybody, make sure everybody was okay. And then I picked a four-leaf clover because I'm really good at finding those. And it started off at like a really young age. Like I think at like 3 or 4, I found my first one and I've been able to find them really regularly ever since. It's super weird and random. Useless, very useless, but fun.
That's not useless at all. I've never found one. I'm so jealous right now. Oh, wow. The next time I'm down in your neck of the woods, you're going
I
to have
was
a
going to
second
say,
one.
the next time you're down here, we'll find one for you.
Perfect. Well, Rachel, like I said before, we're here for a very special reason. Your episode's airing the last episode in the month of October. And for those of you who don't know, October is a huge month for women because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Now, a lot of the time when people are here on their show, they share their stories about how they overcame some sort of societal expectation. But for you today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about an obstacle that you overcame. And you have quite a story to share, don't you?
I do.
So, Miss Rachel, let's talk about it. What is it that you're here to share today? Let us know what happened in your life that brought you to this point today.
Okay, well, um, when I was 28 years old and 29 weeks pregnant with my son, Evan, I was taking a shower and discovered I had an unusual spot on my breast. And so I initially just thought it was something to do with the pregnancy. So I didn't really think too much about it. But when I did go to my next checkup, I asked my doctor what she thought. And at the time, she kind of thought it was probably nothing either. She just said, well, it doesn't seem super unusual, but if it's let's go ahead and get a scan just for peace of mind, essentially was what she said. So for the next couple of weeks, I was like, just doing the normal stuff. And then I went for my scan, and almost immediately I knew something was really wrong because even the ultrasound tech kept asking really weird questions, and I thought this something's not right. And the doctor came in and basically said, I can't guarantee without doing a biopsy and some other stuff, but I'm 99% sure that you have breast cancer. And it was really shocking because even in my wildest things of thinking that could possibly go wrong, breast cancer was just not not at all what I would have thought, because I don't have any family history. I was fairly young. I like eat pretty well, exercise. I just wasn't expecting it. So it was a real shocker.
Yeah, a
Um,
huge shocker. I mean, let's talk about that for a second because, like, here you are, pregnant. This was your first kiddo you were pregnant with. Okay, so
yeah,
like this is a big time in your life, the excitement of having this new baby just around the corner, and here you are, kind of blindsided with this information. Totally, I mean, it's not very typical that you hear of younger women first being
right.
diagnosed, but also like at this time in their life. So what did we do? What did that look like?
Well, at first it was like very, very overwhelming. My first thoughts were just, I thought, well, I'm going to die and I'm going to leave my husband to raise this baby. Um, and that's obviously not probably a logical thought, but just that was what first popped in my head. I wasn't really worried about me, but I was worried about Carl, and of course, I was worried about Evan, which was our baby. And so um, after that, it was sort of like a whirlwind. I got set up with like an oncologist and a surgeon and all this stuff, and it just felt like it felt like almost slow motion, just waiting to hear to all the next steps. What would we do? What kind of breast? I was so naive. I had no idea. So many things. There were like options for surgeries. There are a bunch of different types of breast cancer, which I didn't know. I just assumed it was just breast cancer, but there are multiple different kinds, some that are hormone related, some that aren't. And then depending on which kind of breast cancer you have, there are different uh, recommended treatments, different treatment options. So there was a lot of learning. And the whole time, obviously, I was still most scared for Evan, because I was still pregnant with him. Um, but we got through everything. Like pretty quickly, we scheduled a surgery to remove the cancer, and that went well. It was pretty amazing. They had a special team to monitor just Evan during the surgery, which was pretty amazing. I know when I woke up, that was the first thing I asked was, how was Evan? I wanted to know how he was, and then I wanted to know how I was.
Right, of
So,
course. Knowing you like I do, I can 100% see you behaving that type of way in that moment. Now, so let's talk about like start and finish. So you're 28, 29 weeks pregnant. When you find out that this is kind of happening, how quickly did surgery happen? Like, what did that kind
less it was less than 2 weeks
of,
that
wow.
between finding out that I had the cancer and then actually having the surgery. And also very naive. I just thought that I would go in and they would just remove the lump, and then I would just sort of like go right back to normal. Like, I don't know what I thought. And it was definitely not like that at all. The recovery was super duper hard for me, even though I just had a lumpectomy. That, along with being pregnant so far along, also that's hard on your body. So the recovery was tricky. It took about 10 days before I was kind of back to myself, and I went back to work for a little while, back to teaching the little kindergarten kids. Um, yeah, it was crazy. Um, and so we did that for like a few weeks. Like I just recovered. We had Christmas and went back to teaching for a little bit. And then um, when Evan was 36 weeks gestation, they decided that they wanted to go ahead and deliver him early. They thought that 36 weeks is like generally a pretty good gestational age for delivery. So we went ahead, and since it was my first, we just did a C-section. So that was also kind of complicated too. That's a big surgery.
Yeah.
So, but the point of going ahead and delivering him early was so that I could begin treatment and not have to do chemotherapy while pregnant. Although you can do that. I know people who have. The thought, just for me, with how long I was at the diagnosis, they thought that they could go ahead and just wait a little bit longer for both Evan, and it would be okay for me too.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So here you are. It's kind of like the whirlwind. The tail end of your pregnancy. I assume for anyone goes by pretty quickly. At least I hope that it does go quickly. But yours is like kind of shaken up even further. Now I think that we all, or a lot of women, have these ideas of what the first experience of being a mother is going to kind of look like. There's like these expectations, right? So
Yeah.
so for you, with all of this other medical stuff that was going on and these needs of yours being like having to be paid attention to, how did that kind of change what motherhood looked for you in the first portion of that experience?
Yeah, well, it definitely did not look like I had hoped it would. I don't know, you kind of think about it, I just assumed I would have this baby and we'd come home and, just happily ever after.
Right.
But even though 36 weeks gestation should have been good for Evan, he should have been fine. He actually had a very difficult time breathing. So I didn't even get to hold him or anything. Once they delivered him, they kind of like bring him over and show you. And then within a couple minutes, they were like, he needs to go to the NICU. He's having trouble with breathing. He can't do this on his own. And that was devastating for me. That was so hard. And the guilt I felt, because I know it's not logical, but in my head, I was like, it's all because of me. Like if I hadn't had to have him early, then he would have, you think, well, he would have been born on time and he would have been fine. And so that was really hard. He was in the NICU for 11 days. Yeah. And so it was really hard because there you're depending on everybody else to take care of your baby, because there wasn't things that I could do for him, all the breathing things and the medications and
Right.
all of that. So
So little guy goes to the NICU, makes it out because I've
yeah.
seen the pictures of the kid. He's a
Yes,
big, handsome boy. Now how old is Evan these days?
he is 16. He'll be 17 in January.
And just got his driver's license. So those couple days in the NICU did him okay.
Yeah.
Like he got through it.
He did. He's totally fine. But yeah, it was super scary.
Yeah.
Now I think you can like stay at the hospital with your baby if they're in the NICU, but like that wasn't an option. So that was really hard on like day 3 when I was ready to be discharged so I could go start chemotherapy, and I had to leave my baby in the hospital. So
Right.
that
So
was very challenging.
I I cannot imagine how challenging that was. So here you are going to start chemotherapy, and how long did this whole thing last?
Oh, a long time. Chemotherapy lasted a long time. For me, and I think it's pretty typical, you do like chemotherapy rounds. So you go in for like one day, takes almost a whole day. They give you a whole bunch of like chemotherapy medications, and then you go home to heal or kind of recoup for 3 weeks, and then you do it again. And um, so we did that for I think 8 rounds of chemotherapy.
Wow. That's
So it's a
that's
long
not
time.
easy on the body, right? Like it's yeah.
No, it's super hard. It wasn't super bad the first round. I think I did like pretty much. I felt okay, kind of normalish, um, until my hair started falling out, and then that one that one like hit hard because I felt like once my hair was falling out and I was bald, that like everybody could tell that I was sick. You don't look like yourself. You definitely look sick when you don't have your head on your hair or your eyebrows or anything. You just definitely look sick and people can tell.
Right.
So that was tricky. And then it seemed like each chemotherapy session, like each time I would go, like I would be like a little bit less able to do things than I had the time before. Like I just would have less energy. I would sleep a lot. And so I would have to depend on other people to help with Evan. Obviously, Carl helped a lot, but I had to rely on other people to help as well. Like my parents helped, my in-laws helped. We had friends that were helping. But yeah, it was a long time, and it was difficult. But
Definitely difficult. But you fought the fight and you made it to the other side. So we have 8 rounds. So that took you right around 24 weeks, 6 months of chemotherapy ish.
yeah,
Yeah.
hmm and
Okay.
then radiation. That was then that comes next.
Okay. And how long was radiation?
That's like another like 6 to 8 weeks of radiation, and that's every day. So that yeah, so that's a
Okay.
lot also.
So about a year worth of treatments.
Close to yeah, well, about 10 months, like all the way through. Probably was like 10 months before I was completely like done with everything.
Weird with everything. So we're going to call it the first year almost of Evan being around, and we all know how hard having a newborn is, and you're juggling the medical side for you personally. That's a big fight, Rachel. Like a really really big fight. So how did you do it? Like what got you through? I'm so curious.
Yeah. Well, I do think I've always been a pretty strong person. So that definitely helped me because I was just like, well, I'm going to do the best I can with this. But a really big part was letting people help us. We had not only family members, but friends, and they all wanted to help. And at first, that was really hard for me. I didn't want to have anybody
Right.
help. I didn't want to need anybody to help because I am independent, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to need anybody. Um, but I got to the point where we just had to have help. There was just too much between therapies and raising a baby and all the things. We had to have help. So I did let people come, and whether it was take care of Evan for a couple hours or bring food or people offered to clean the house, whatever it was, I did let people help. And although it was hard, it was much needed. And it has definitely taught me the power of like needing a community, having people to let help, and also, eventually then I'll help others. So,
Right. That sense of community. It takes a village, right? That's the saying.
yeah.
So, so knowing that we were going to be having this conversation, I did a little research and I looked at prevalence rates because a big portion of I think why we both wanted you on the show is because this is a very real topic, and this is a topic that people need to be conscious of. As of 2024, this is what I've learned. 300,000 people have been diagnosed in the United States alone with breast cancer. Oh, it's not a small number. So, thinking about your own experience, is there any advice or anything that you think people should really have in their minds as they maybe start to find out that they might have a diagnosis or might maybe be avoiding those important appointments that maybe they should be following up with? Anything that you think is worth hearing?
Right. Well, I definitely think that even though we're all super duper busy, and sometimes also the thought about what if you're not feeling well, I think the thought of going to the doctor, it can be scary also, because it's hard to find out that you have any kind of ailment. So I know that sometimes just between schedules, being busy and then maybe not wanting to know what your diagnosis would be. I know a lot of people will put off going to the doctor or put off getting tested for things, and it's just really important to stay on top of your health and to get checked. So I was really young. I wasn't expecting that to be a diagnosis, but even if you're not, I think the recommended age to start mammograms is like 45. But obviously, um, can happen to people much younger. So just stay on top of your health and don't be afraid to go.
So Rachel, I really appreciate your willingness to share this incredible story with us. What you experienced really was unlike anything that I've ever heard of. Now, knowing that there are going to be people in the future, unfortunately, who will also probably be diagnosed, what's the one piece of information or idea you wish they could take away from this interview as they move forward in that process of seeking care?
Yeah. I think a super important thing is to remember that it's okay to ask for help, and honestly, it's beneficial. Um, I know not only was it beneficial to us, um, but then I know talking to people after, like people want to help. People genuinely enjoy helping others, and so um, yeah, not only is it okay to ask for help and be okay with that, but that people genuinely do want to help.
Right. They do want to help. Well, Rachel, thank you again so much for sharing your story. For everyone watching this, I want you to know that in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we're going to be putting a few extra resources here in the description of the episode. So please make sure that you check those out if you have any further questions or concerns about the topic. And please, everyone, keep being the rebels that you are, because the world just might need it.